We often find comfort in our daily routines, right?
Hmm.
In the familiar. But what happens when extreme circumstances completely flip those assumptions on their head,
Mm.
forcing us to redefine not just what we eat, but maybe what we consider human or even beautiful?
Mm.
Today, we're doing a deep dive into a really extraordinary account. It truly challenges our everyday notions about comfort, survival, and even philosophy.
Mm.
So our mission here is to unpack how cultural perceptions can shift, sometimes dramatically, how human nature adapts under, well, immense pressure, and the profound, often unexpected insights that can pop up from the most unlikely and, yeah, sometimes unsettling situations.
And I think this deep dive is a really unique chance to hold up a mirror to our own assumptions. It's about exploring the remarkable resilience, the strength of the human spirit when it's faced with just unimaginable suffering, and how that suffering can redefine what we see as acceptable or desirable or maybe even insightful.
Okay, so let's jump right in with something that might genuinely surprise you. Our source material points out this really stark cultural divide when it comes to cats. While many in the West, generally adore them, often share their homes with them, Japanese women, for example, tend to strongly dislike them.
Right.
It's not just women. Apparently, if you ask a Japanese man if he prefers dogs or cats, the answer is almost always dogs. That's kind of a jarring insight to start with, isn't it?
It absolutely is. And it goes much deeper than just simple preference. Our source suggests this is rooted in a historical, even cultural perception of cats as something more, well, ominous, almost like demonic creatures. This idea stems from old legends like the Nabeshima cat disturbance story.
Oh, okay.
So even for those households in Japan that do keep cats, it's often primarily for a practical reason, like catching mice, pest control. It's not necessarily about cherishing them as companions in quite the same way you might a dog or maybe even a bird.
And this cultural feeling, it's so deep, it actually shows up in the language itself.
Yeah.
Think about terms like nekobaba. That means pretending you didn't see something, like after pocketing something found.
Right, feigning ignorance.
Or neidgo, which is like a coaxing, wheedling voice, often associated with cats.
Yeah.
Then there's nekoze, which means a stooped back, or neko wo kaburu, literally to wear a cat, meaning to hide one's claws, implying, deception.
Hiding your true nature.
Exactly. And even neko no hitai, a very narrow space, translates to cat's forehead. And neko no mi, fickle, means cat's eyes. Just the sound of these words, the source tells us, can bring up this image of a petty thief sneaking in through someone's back door. It suggests an almost instinctive tendency to dislike cats.
Wow. It's fascinating how language can carry that much cultural baggage, isn't it?
It really shifts your perspective. Okay, so from that general cultural aversion, we now pivot to something even more confronting. The author's own personal experience takes us inside a hospital, a setting where the idea of eating cat meat wasn't just like a hypothetical concept, it was actually happening. The author expresses real astonishment. Apparently they'd eaten dog before, but never cat. So how does the source kind of set the scene for this almost unbelievable shift in perception?
Well, the context of this hospital is absolutely critical. We're not talking about your average medical facility here.
Yeah.
These are described as severe illness wards and also inconvenience dormitories. These places housed blind or crippled patients, often being cared for by, well, fellow patients.
Right.
And the author came to see the act of eating these animals not as something barbaric, but as an expression of a somehow lovable human nature. Something almost to be cherished, oddly enough. And this is all set against this backdrop of just unimaginable, prolonged suffering. You have patients lying there, wrapped head to toe in bandages like a stockfish, or enduring blindness, or living with prosthetic limbs.
Wow.
The sheer extremity of the environment just fundamentally reshaped what was considered normal or even acceptable.
And it's in that environment that we get this incredibly poignant anecdote. It really sticks with you. An educated blind man in the psychiatric ward declared, apparently with real conviction, "Eating is my greatest pleasure. I eagerly await my 3 meals a day, wondering what the side dishes will be. Thinking about that is my greatest joy."
Wow. That really puts things into stark perspective, doesn't it?
It does.
And it raises this important question for us, I think. For people lacking what the author calls a lofty spiritual life in such dire straits, when everything else is basically stripped away, what is left to focus on?
Yeah, what's left?
And the source is pretty clear. Food and women become the primary, almost the only focus. The author reflects on their own body, quote, rotting away day by day, and how philosophy, religion, even art, they all seem, well, powerless in the face of such a brutal physical reality.
It paints this picture of an inescapable fate, really, where even those with milder symptoms eventually ended up in that inconvenience dormitory. So when you consider that profound constant suffering, the desire to seek supreme pleasure in a single slice of cat meat, it stops feeling savage. It transforms into something the author calls a poignant and lovable feeling, like a desperate grasp at any kind of joy.
There's another layer here, too. Another compelling, almost desperate reason for these unconventional eating habits.
Okay.
The author senses this deep, maybe unconscious hope for a miraculous cure for their leprosy. It's not necessarily rational belief, but a powerful undercurrent. And this isn't just about cat meat. The source shares a specific story of a Korean patient who, based purely on a rumor, swallowed a live lizard. Whole. Yeah, first from the tail, apparently it wriggled, then from the head. It just dramatically highlights that feeling of gambling with one's life that permeated the place. Utter desperation.
So while cat eating was described as commonplace there, it wasn't happening every single day.
Right, not constant.
And interestingly, the source notes that the women in the hospital, they were generally more superstitious. They actually refused to eat cat. Or even dog, like a specific dish mentioned, a red dog prepared as wankatsu.
That's a fascinating detail, the gender difference there.
Yeah. Okay, so moving from that really harrowing context to the practical reality, what was the actual experience of this cat cuisine like? Our author talks about eating a plump tabby. Apparently it weighed about 5 can, which is roughly 18.75 kilos, so a pretty big cat.
Oh, yeah.
It was a stray, described as a thief cat that had been constantly raiding the chicken coop. And this coop was important. Patients raised about 800 chickens there for eggs and milk, which was vital nutrition for those in the severe illness wards.
Makes sense. And to catch a persistent thief like that, they used a type of trap called a deadfall trap or a baton.
Okay.
Basically, the cat's favorite food would be hung inside, and when the cat touched it, bam. A thick plank, weighted down with a large stone, comes crashing down from above.
Brutal.
Simple, brutal, and apparently quite effective.
The description of the trapped cat is, well, it's vivid. And strangely, the author uses the word comical.
Comical?
Yeah, it was flattened, cold, described as both mushy and hard at the same time. Its eyes were wide open in a glare, making it look terribly eerie. But despite this really gruesome sight, the other patients were apparently laughing, calling it a fat thief cat.
Wow, that's dark humor right there, isn't it? Born from those circumstances.
Really is.
And that's precisely where the author makes this truly profound personal insight. They realized they were developing this habit of finding the more profound or gruesome something is, the more comical it starts to seem. They suggest that suffering itself can actually be the womb of the comical. It's an incredible idea.
Yeah.
They even relate it to their own struggle, sharing that a feeling of nonsensical comicality actually became a kind of mechanism that stopped them from going through with suicide at certain points.
That's incredibly powerful.
Okay.
A coping mechanism born from unbearable pain.
Exactly. A testament to the mind's strange ways of surviving.
So the preparation of the meat itself, it sounds like it was quite specific. Right after killing it, apparently, it emitted this indescribable foul odor.
Oof. Yeah.
So it had to be buried in the earth for like 2 to 3 days just to get rid of that smell.
Right, a necessary step.
The author mentions removing the head first, quite difficult. But after that, the skinning process was surprisingly easy.
And given the environment, mostly men, in a hospital setting, there weren't any sophisticated cooking methods available.
Right, no fancy sauces.
No, exactly. It was simply stewed with sugar and soy sauce. Basic.
Right.
But the anticipation among the patients was huge. They'd gather around the brazier, trying to smell the steam, apparently picking out reddish, still uncooked pieces to taste. And they'd even discuss practical things, like using the cat's skin to make a shamisen, the traditional Japanese instrument.
Wow, using every part. So the taste, what was the verdict?
Yeah, the taste.
The description is actually remarkably positive. Unbelievably delicious, the author writes. Slightly sour, with an unusual flavor.
Tender.
Very tender, yeah. Tender like rabbit, apparently. And notably, it was low fat, which made it suitable even for old people with bad teeth.
Huh. So delicious. Tender, low fat.
Exactly. And this positive experience led the author to this powerful reflection on human prejudice. They sort of mused, How foolish human beings are to have not eaten something so delicious until now, simply because they find it unpleasant.
That really hits home, doesn't it?
It does. They even compare cats to cows and horses, suggesting cats are actually far cleaner than pigs, especially when you consider how pigs are often raised.
It's a really provocative thought about how our cultural biases completely dictate our palates, what we deem edible or inedible.
Absolutely. Puts our own food taboos into sharp relief.
Yeah. And this entire intense experience, it led the author to some incredibly deep philosophical thinking, connecting this act of finding pleasure through despair to the concept of nihilism. It's quite a leap, but yeah. It's remarkable how the author weaves this all together, particularly with their idea of what they call affirmative nihilism.
Affirmative nihilism. Okay, break that down.
For them, particularly for those suffering from leprosy, the path towards a kind of salvation or maybe enlightenment, it could be found either by denying everything, rejecting it all, or conversely by radically affirming everything, the good, the bad, the horrific.
Okay.
And that comical feeling the author describes, experiencing that dark humor in the face of the grotesque. They believe that feeling must be this nihilism, arising in just a fleeting moment. It's this radical idea that from the absolute depths, when conventional comforts just fail completely, some individuals find a kind of liberation. Not by escaping, but by fully, totally affirming the reality of their situation, even the most absurd or painful parts.
So this affirmative nihilism, it sounds incredibly profound, but also incredibly challenging to live out. Is the core insight that by completely embracing the despair or maybe denying everything we think we know, we can somehow find a path to enlightenment or maybe just a unique kind of freedom?
I think that's the essence of it, yeah.
And if that's the case, living your daily life within that framework, that must be almost impossible. It seems like it would require a will that is, as the author says, stronger than human.
Exactly. It's about finding that transcendent acceptance when literally all else fails you. And the author concludes that if, human destiny prevents us from achieving this state of nihilism easily, then will alone is the ultimate saving grace. Sheer determination.
Wow.
It's a powerful statement about inner strength in the face of absolutely insurmountable odds, emphasizing that sheer will is all that remains when everything, absolutely everything else, is stripped away.
And this all culminates, it builds to the author's incredibly surprising, really bold conclusion from the source. Their belief that, quote, cat cuisine is something that should be widely practiced among the general public from now on.
Yeah. Quite the final statement after everything we've heard.
What an incredible journey this deep dive has been, really. We've gone from those initial, maybe surprising cultural views on cats through the truly harrowing realities of survival and profound suffering in that hospital setting, all the way to these astonishing philosophical reflections on pleasure, the nature of the comical, and the sheer indomitable power of human will.
And I think it's crucial to reiterate, this deep dive, it's absolutely not about promoting cat consumption, not at all.
Right, important point.
Rather, it's about trying to understand how extreme circumstances can radically reframe our perceptions. What becomes acceptable, what becomes desirable, what can even be considered delicious. It just truly highlights the incredible adaptive capacity of the human spirit, our ability to find not just survival, but meaning, and even a strange kind of joy in the absolute most challenging of times.
So as you, our listener, reflect on all this, and maybe consider this final thought, how do our own cultural norms, our own deeply ingrained prejudices, maybe limit our understanding of pleasure or resilience, or even just what's possible, and what surprising comicality might emerge from our own moments of profound difficulty if we actually allowed ourselves to see it? Something to think about.